Hi, I'm Rob Disman, and I'm the owner of your local Domino's Slippery Rock. I started out with Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in college. Ended up really liking the job. Worked my way up through management to the supervisor. I did that for about 10 years. My family, we decided that we couldn't really go any further with that, so we decided to go ahead and become a franchisee with Domino's. I'm lucky enough to have enough community support that most customers have become more than just customers, they're more like friends. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this community for 20 years, and I look forward to many more years.
My name is Will Gormley, and I'm the owner of the Dinky Dachshund Tattoo Parlor. Here at Dinky Dachshund Tattoo Parlor, we offer a variety of body piercings, tooth gems, tattoos, custom artwork, commission artwork. What our inspiration here at the Dinky Dachshund is to just look at the walls, look around the shop. There's so much stuff in here to look at. Our goal here is to supply our customers with a personalized, high-quality experience when getting a tattoo or a piercing.
My name is Lily Hazett. I am the receptionist and the piercer. We also offer different kinds of jewelry, colored jewelry, whether it's a hoop, a stud, and everyone can kind of pick out what they want. They don't have to start with something that's plain. They can start with something that makes them happy and it'll look good on their body or ear.
I'm Alex Aspinall, and I'm the shop's second artist. What sets us apart from the other shops in town, the 6 other shops in town, is that we care. We like to make sure that every tattoo is for you from us because we care.
As years pass and people come and go from our lives, all we have is our memories. From the family gathering to the summer baseball games, to that first trip to Disney, those memories are something to be cherished. I thought many of those memories were lost to time and outdated technology, but with Memory Lane Media, they gave me those memories back so that I can share them with my grandkids, and they can share them with their kids one day.
Welcome to Real Reviews from the Rock. I'm James, and today I'm joined by Dr. Brittany Fleming.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me, James.
You're welcome.
I thought that we could start the show off by telling the audience about your experience with your new hat.
This hat here.
Yes.
Yeah, I went to the store to buy a hat the other day because my hair was a disaster. And for whatever reason, I get very self-conscious about it because of the way my hair lays. It looks
Hence why it's on right now.
Looks like I'm wearing a toupee, unfortunately. And I didn't like the way it looked in the monitor, so I put it on. But it was a free hat.
Yeah.
I found an Easter egg. And they said, oh, you had a free hat? And I was like, that's what I was coming to buy anyway.
Yeah.
And she wasn't amused. And she said, next. And I was
just
right
like
out of line.
the universe, the stars aligned for you.
No, I'm
Free
just kidding.
hat.
She was actually very nice. I don't want her to watch this and be
Well,
like,
that's good. I'm sure she was nice.
don't ever come back in this
It's a
store
great
again.
hat.
It is a great hat.
I like the color.
No, it's an absolutely great hat, and you should all be jealous.
Well, maybe we should just get started
Okay.
and not talk about your hat anymore.
All right. So, today we're watching They Came From Beyond Space, 1967. Mm-hmm. Kind of a cult classic, now, but wasn't so much a success then. But,
This was the first time I'd ever heard of this movie. Whenever you asked me to, well, I volunteered myself to do this show.
Yeah. Which was good because the audience wasn't going to want to listen to me ramble for a half hour.
Well, I can't promise that anything is going to be better with the addition of myself.
No, I hadn't heard about it either. I was looking for a movie to do this episode, and I know we just did a trip to the moon, I think 2 films ago, but we hadn't really done a more modern science fiction film, so I was looking through what was available, and I came across this.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, it was surprisingly for a film of its time period.
Yeah.
It had a good story, but not only that, the special effects, they really stood up the test of time.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Star Trek, the original series. You ever watch Star Trek?
I watched Star Trek with my grandfather.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Like the series or the movies? Look at you.
Yeah.
I can't even do it. I can't even do it.
I forget what this is even called, but I just know it's a thing from Star Trek.
It's from Mr. Spock.
Mr. Spock.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Spock.
Nope. Different person. Different person altogether.
Well, okay, so whenever I was watching this and I just decided to start researching a little bit too. And some things that I thought were really interesting because I think, like you said, Star Trek, I don't even know what year Star Trek's from.
66.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I was noticing, that it seemed like a lot of science fiction was coming out in the 60s. So I looked up why that was, and the quote that I found, the spectacular nature of science fiction and horror was seen as appealing to immature tastes, which meant these films could be marketed to the newly conceptualized teen market. And some other films that came out during this time, Space Odyssey, Night of the Living Dead, which you've already done an episode on, and Planet of the Apes. And all of those were released in '68. So I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. And they're all kind of considered cult classics. So I was surprised I didn't know more about this one.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned, well, it's actually 2 interesting points. So the first one, mind-blowing as it is, probably more so then, not so much today because of the budgets that films are given. Planet of the Apes was the first film to be given $1 million towards its special effects. So,
$1 million.
Yes.
That's a quote from the movie.
Yeah, $1 million for the special effects to create all of the ape costumes.
Wow.
Which, honestly, I think Planet of the Apes is probably the gold standard of sci-fi films from the 60s. I mean,
I think it's rated number 1.
Yeah, the costumes in that film are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it actually went on to win the costume designer and special effects guy a Academy
That's
Award.
awesome. Wow, didn't know that.
So yeah, and then another thing is, I thought it was kind of funny immediately. I noticed similarities between Night of the Living Dead and this film was, Night of the Living Dead starts with a satellite crashing into a field and it causes that chaos. And this one's the meteors crash into the field, and so I just thought that was kind of interesting that
Well, I think it was, and something I was telling you before the show, something I appreciated, and so it happened in Night of the Living Dead too, was that it's not like there's some movies nowadays they're super super long. It takes forever. They're really slow. It takes forever to get to that climax of the narrative. Structure, but with both Night of the Living Dead and this movie, it was just movie starts, here's something crazy that happens.
Yeah.
So no time waiting around. It's really great.
Well, yeah, and I think this film's start was pretty good. I mean, especially with the fact that you think for 1967. I mean, the effects when those meteors hit. I mean, it was pretty good. It didn't look miniature model-y, but I'm sure that's what they used.
Right.
I don't know for sure, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't there something else you were going to say? I probably interrupted you and...
Oh, no, it'll come back to me.
Something else that I noticed right at the beginning was the color. What did you think of the color of the... I know that the version you watched was a little grainier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was kind of surprised, actually, that for the budget that the film had, that it was in color, to be honest with you, because that's one of the things that director Freddie Francis talks about, which I'll talk about later. But no, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was vibrant for
It was
a 1960s
vibrant.
film.
Well, and I looked it up. So this used Eastman color, which should sound familiar because of Kodak. But I noticed this kind of like greenish hue once in a while, and so it's probably too because the movie is older. And I don't know. I mean, I watched it on the Tubi app. You watched it. I don't know how you got
through the
access to it.
archives.
Yeah, so maybe they're just poor quality as well. But Eastman color was introduced in 1950 and was one of the first widely successful single strip color processes. It eventually displaced the more cumbersome Technicolor, Wizard of Oz, is what I think of whenever I hear Technicolor. And other movies that actually used this process was Jurassic Park and The Never-Ending Story.
Oh yeah, both good films.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So-
interesting too because you know, when I think of Wizard of Oz now, of course, you watch Wizard of Oz today, and the image has been cleaned up and retouched over the years. But I mean, the Wizard of Oz was very bright in color, so it's kind of it's kind of crazy to me because, you know, this movie, and I guess also because of the way it was filmed, didn't have that extra touch of brightness that Wizard of Oz had. But no, that's interesting that it replaced Technicolor.
Well, it was, I guess, with Technicolor. I mean, it's 3 different types of color in the process. I don't know, but this is single, so I wonder if that has something to do with it too. Is that the multi-processing was just too much for what the payoff was.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, though.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What else do you want to talk about before we get started?
It was filmed in the United Kingdom. A lot of the exterior scenes were filmed in Cookham, Berkshire, which, you know, a lot of films, I feel like, in the 60s were filmed over in the United Kingdom. I mean, even still today, going a decade later, most of the Star Wars films were all filmed in the UK. I think it's, you know, too, because, you know, we have sound stages, you know, in Hollywood, but, you know, we don't have sound stages kind of the size that some of the UK sound stages had, which is, I know, why George Lucas filmed in the UK to begin with, because he needed the vast size for Star Wars. Right. But, so I wasn't really surprised about that. But, yeah, it was filmed in the UK, and it would... I'm losing my train of thought.
Well, I was wondering if that was why I didn't recognize any of the actors, but then whenever you told me that the one, like the...
Oh, Michael Gough.
Yeah, that he ended up being, what was he again?
Alfred in Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 90s Batman.
Yeah. So, well, in so many TV shows that we watch on Netflix, it's either basically like half made here or half programming made in the UK. So,
I've noticed Netflix actually is picking up a lot more variety of foreign films. Which is good because I think, you know, that really broadens their audience. But I have noticed that there's more films being filmed from, you know, outside the United States, foreign films and whatnot on Netflix. But
apparently that's been happening for a while.
Forever.
We love it. We love that look on us.
Yeah, so just to give you a little heads up about what the movie's about.
Yes.
It follows a group of scientists who are investigating an unusual meteor shower, and you know, they wind up becoming possessed, I guess is the best way to say it, by these aliens who have traveled on the meteor, and there's
very Mars Attack like.
Yeah, which, man, I wish that was in the public domain because that would just be a fun movie to sift through.
We can still talk about it.
We could see. But, they possess the residents of this this town, you know, I'll just say. And one scientist is working to kind of thwart their plans of what they believe to be an earthly takeover.
Right.
So.
And, oh boy, is there a spin.
Yeah. So I guess without further ado, we'll head into the movie, and we will see you afterwards to discuss our thoughts.
Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Rob Disman, and I'm the owner of your local Domino's Slippery Rock. I started out with Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in college. Ended up really liking the job. Worked my way up through management to the supervisor. I did that for about 10 years. My family, we decided that we couldn't really go any further with that, so we decided to go ahead and become a franchisee with Domino's. I'm lucky enough to have enough community support that most customers have become more than just customers, they're more like friends. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this community for 20 years, and I look forward to many more years. Hi, I'm Rob Disman, and I'm the owner of your local Domino's Slippery Rock. I started out with Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in college. Ended up really liking the job. Worked my way up through management to the supervisor. I did that for about 10 years. My family, we decided that we couldn't really go any further with that, so we decided to go ahead and become a franchisee with Domino's. I'm lucky enough to have enough community support that most customers have become more than just customers, they're more like friends. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this community for 20 years, and I look forward to many more years.
Main Street's more of a budget-friendly option. You've got the smaller apartments that definitely leave a lot more room for customization. They are also fully furnished. It's kind of our hidden gem. So you have your options of 3-people units or 2-people units. South Rock's more of our in-between property. It's not super fancy, but it's also still very budget-friendly. You have the opportunity to live with 3 other individuals, which definitely helps with the pricing. The units come fully furnished. The bedrooms come with a desk, a dresser, a nightstand, and a full-size bed. Kitchens are fully equipped. You have a washer and dryer in the apartment, and then you have a really nice patio. Stonecrest is quiet, comfortable, classy. We offer 4 bedrooms and we have 2 bedrooms. All of our units are completely furnished. The kitchen is fully equipped. You have fridge, stove, microwave, dishwasher and garbage disposal, and you do have a patio space as well. For more information, visit us at www.southrockapartments.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
And there it was.
Yeah.
Kind of personally, I think, I love the movie, but it was kind of a disappointing. I mean, it was just a very abrupt ending. There should be a second one.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it didn't do too well at the box office.
Probably because of the ending.
So they said, no. It's actually this and the film that it was paired with, The Trogonauts, I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But they are listed as 2 of the worst movies of all time when it came out.
Well, maybe, I don't know, 1967.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think
there were some crazy things happening.
Yeah. I don't think it was, I don't think it still holds that record, but at the time that's what they had said. And, but just to get back onto what you were talking about. Yeah, I mean, the ending is kind of very much like the beginning where, you're right into the story and then they're just like,
and sometimes you wonder if it's let's get to the special effects because that's what's going to keep the audience engaged.
Yeah, I think especially for the 60s. Yeah. I think I mean that was really the big draw as you head into especially the late 60s. I mean, audiences were coming out to see these crazy visual effects on screen. I mean, especially because you weren't getting that type of stuff on TV except for Star Trek. I mean, I think Star Trek, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, I mean, there might be other shows, was kind of groundbreaking in the special effects it offered, for at-home viewing. But, no, I think, that's what they were, your Dr. Spock. But, no, I think it was all about the special effects and keeping their attention.
Right.
And probably very abrupt because you imagine, I mean, back then, movies were not as long as they are today. I mean,
even going back to the idea that the movies and TV media was trying to attract this immature taste.
Yeah.
Teens want explosives and aliens, and
so
that just further defends that point.
Yeah, and I also think too, like the faster the movie comes to a conclusion, the faster they're moving the next audience into the theater.
True.
And I'm sure also this
money.
was probably a hit at drive-ins, as well, I would imagine.
Yeah.
When I think of sci-fi B movies, I immediately think of, a drive-in theater.
For sure.
So.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool if a drive-in had like some sort of laser pointed with a V as it was like going across, like at the beginning of this movie?
Oh yeah, that would have been neat. Yeah.
Just scare everybody a little bit.
You could probably do that
Immerse
today
them
with,
in the film.
with drones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so how do you want to analyze this? I have some notes here talking about narrative structure. I know that you have a lot to say about the actors and the producers. So how do you want to get started?
Well, why don't you guys start and
Just-
start yours, and
okay.
then and
Okay.
I'll jump in.
So something that I studied during my PhD program was narrative structure and storytelling. And so a model that we focused on was called Freytag's plot pyramid. And this was created by Gustav Freytag. And he tells story. He says that every story has they might be called something different, but the same types of points in a storyline. So we have exposition, which is the very first thing that we see. It's really setting the scene. We have rising action, which is the series of events that happens that takes us to then the climax, which is the most action-based or most significant part of the narrative. Falling action, which is the opposite of rising action. Resolution, which is the solution to whatever problem was posed in the movie. And then denouement, which is any unanswered question. And I think that that's kind of where I had a hard time with the ending, because there are so many unanswered questions at the end of this film. So the very beginning, I mean, we kind of already touched base on how quickly all the action started.
Yeah.
But the exposition would be the aliens landing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I feel like the exposition and the rising action kind of, there's no border there. They kind of blend across to one another.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I mean, especially movies today, it's kind of neat because, as you said, you know, some movies they take forever.
Yeah.
To get to that.
When it sets the
that point.
stage that it's such a calm town and there's not a lot going on. I think the first person that sees the aliens in the sky was a farmer.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like this old, quiet farming town, and clearly there are scientists around, but it's just maybe a place where the aliens felt like they could attack and no one would notice.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Which you see in a lot of, you know, alien sci-fi type movies. It's like they strategically pick these, like, you know.
Like Signs.
Yeah, like Signs. Yeah, especially like Signs. They pick these remote areas where they're not going to get a lot of, you know, pushback, I guess.
Right.
But
Unlike Mars Attacks.
Unlike Mars Attacks, which
Just go straight to the...
if you haven't seen it,
Yeah, we won't ruin it.
watch Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those films that's so bad it's good.
Yeah. I haven't
yeah.
watched it in forever, so even just looking back at the CG now
Oh,
and
yeah.
seeing how hilarious those... Anyways.
Jack Nicholson playing three
Wrong
different
movie.
roles in that movie.
Yes,
Playing that
yes.
crazy like Texan in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Gosh.
Oh, what a guy. So the inciting incident would be whenever he possesses Lee,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She's the very first person that is possessed. And I liked that because I'm all about a main character being someone who identifies as a female. So go Lee.
Yeah. No, I think, and her name in real life,
Jennifer
Jane.
Yeah.
And I had to look back. Two J's, too many.
Yeah.
But no, Jennifer Jane. I mean, she's a very good actress. I mean, in this film, and like I said, she had a mildly successful career before this. But she's very good, and I thought it was neat. And you mentioned this before we started filming, that, you know, for 1967, I mean, she really kind of is like the lead character of the film.
Yeah.
Even though Robert Hutton got that top billing, but they very much kind of equally share the lead in the film, maybe with Jennifer Jane actually coming out a little ahead of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, and I mean, she's the antagonist,
Yeah.
really, because if we think about the conflict in the story, it is kind of man versus nature, I guess, but then it's also, I think, has touches of like man versus society, and then between Jennifer and Robert, what's his name again?
Robert Hutton.
Robert Hutton, it's kind of man versus man, because Even though there are other bad aliens in the movie, he's always seems to be head to head with her.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that does come down to, like, you know, I think they just hint at it. I don't think they come right out and say it, but the relationship that they have, you know, even though they work together.
Right.
I think it kind of comes down with that, too, because, you know, he's, like, trying to bring her back, you know, because they're in love, you know, but... Yeah, I really kind of enjoy their dynamic together, especially when she's the alien and not Lee.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So the rising action, taking over other humans, and this just kind of goes on for a while, where we just see like this look in their faces, and all of a sudden they're being like possessed, and there are all these crazy effects happening.
Yeah.
So that happens for a while, and then I identified the climax as when Temple talks to the, I have written in my notes, when Temple talks to the alien dude while being held captive, he just like opens up that little piece of the door and was like, you just do what you're told, and we'll bring you dinner, and we need your help. I don't know, it was weird. Convo about the rocket to the moon, and then Temple breaking out of captivity. So the aliens do eventually, as he's trying to figure out what's going on, he does end up being held hostage after some very humorous fight scenes.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think we were talking about this before we filmed as well, and I couldn't remember. You know, you mentioned how the aliens, why didn't they just take over?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just take over, I think his first name's Curtis.
Yes,
and I was like, you know, I can't remember if they mentioned it, so I went back and looked, and they can't take over him because of the plate in his head from that automobile accident.
Oh,
it prevents them from taking over his body.
Oh.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was because they needed his help.
No, and
he was such a good scientist.
I missed it too but I guess they even reference it at the end, like what they want to do before he finally is just, you know, when he's like, you know, all you had to do was ask for help.
Right.
They were planning on removing the plate so that they could use him.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that adds so much to it.
Yeah, well, and it kind of did fill in the gaps, but I was like, oh, well, that's why he had what's-his-name make the silver helmet for his head, because he was like, oh, they won't be able to read your thoughts. And, you know, there's that scene where they bring Lee back finally after he's rescued her, and, you know, your favorite scene where he just, you know, decks her across the face. And,
that really surprised me. Farge, I think was his. Yeah,
Farge, that was it. Yep.
That's his name. Yeah. The assistant, like the only person that could help him or believed him.
Right. Yeah, and he melts down all the metals, his silver metals. And they tested out to see if she can take over Farge.
And he's like, "It's working." Like the
Which was crazy because like he got like a crazy look on his face, and I was like,
it didn't work.
I was like, oh, is she lying? Like, oh, the alien's lying now, but. No, it was just a crazy look on his face. I don't know what was going on. He's
an overactor.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was the 60s.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I thought that was kind of interesting that, you know, the one guy they can't do anything because he's got this metal plate in his head, which also I thought was, like, so far-fetched. Like, when they showed the X-ray and he's got the, like, thick metal plate in his head, and I was like, how is he not dead?
Well, I don't know if it's a fun fact, but my dad actually was in an automobile accident whenever I was just born, and he has a metal plate in his head.
Really?
I don't think it's that thick.
Right.
But it would be good to know that my dad would not be taken over by the aliens.
Yeah. And your dad is now saying, I'm glad that traumatic experience was a fun fact for you.
Yeah, seriously.
Holy crap.
Well, it's less traumatic than if aliens attacked the Earth.
I suppose.
And, you know, so.
I suppose.
So the resolution is, I put whenever, and this is like the last 20 minutes of the movie, and the movie's only 90 minutes long-ish. The last 20 minutes, the aliens, and I forget that guy's name, because I don't even think, we'll talk about that whenever we get to
the main bad guy?
The main bad guy.
The Master of the Moon?
Yes.
That's what they call him, the Master of the Moon?
So he explains himself and why they're doing this. Because also, I guess something we didn't note is that these aliens are plaguing the Earth. So whenever they're plaguing the Earth, I mean, some people got a kind of like a skin rash.
Yeah, like this like chicken pox, like red dots all over their body. And
yeah, so they were trying to fake their deaths so that they could use them as workers to try and build their spaceship, because they crashed on the moon from SAR? It was a faraway star was the name of their planet.
Yeah.
So they just needed help.
And
I felt bad for them.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy reveal at the end there, and
he's like, we just need help.
Right, and they're like not these like bad aliens at all, and like they had no intention of keeping these people.
Yeah.
They were going to release them, but the funny thing is, you know, like the government's sending these dead bodies to the moon.
Yes.
Like
the government had.
How are you getting them home? Like, oh, we just needed your help, and now you're staying on the moon.
Right.
And you're gonna die because there's no resources.
Right.
So.
Well, and we'll never know. Yeah, we'll never know because there was not a second one made.
Right. So. Thanks, Freddie Francis.
Frankie Francis.
Oh, was that his name?
Oh wait, no, sorry. No, Freddie.
Francis?
Yeah, sorry.
We don't even
Freddie
know what we're talking about here. We didn't even watch this movie. This is all lies.
Clearly, we watched this movie. So then the denouement, so all of these unanswered questions from the, and I mean, we also didn't, I was kind of surprised whenever he's like, we just need help. And he doesn't sound like this. He's more like, we just need your help.
That was good.
It's like this very creepy
that was good.
kind of explanation. But then all of a sudden they just capture Temple then and just hold him down on a table and try to take this metal plate out of his brain.
Yeah.
So like it's not like they're apologizing. They're still moving forward with their plan.
Right.
But then Farge comes through and saves him.
Yeah, starts this little uprising on the ship.
Yeah. And Hutton's like, all you had to do was ask for help.
Yeah.
And the alien's like, oh.
He just starts crying.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, and like that's within the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, and then it just
they shake hands.
And it's done.
Yeah, and the movie is over. And it's like...
And they don't even get off the ship.
Yeah.
Right? It ends on the ship.
Oh, well, and then, so the guy, the Master of the Moon becomes unpossessed.
Yeah.
And he's like, he looks at Temple and he's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And Temple's like, I'm Curtis Temple.
And he's like, oh, and by the way, we're on a rocket to the moon. And we're not coming home.
Well, in this Master of the Moon, so he then is a normal person again and says, Alfred Smith. But he's just like, I'm Alfred Smith, nice to meet you. They shake hands, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
So this guy doesn't even have, he's not even looking for an explanation as to why they're on a ship, why he's dressed in this goofy costume, why everyone around him is dressed like an alien.
Yeah.
And again, we'll never know because...
Freddie Francis didn't make a second movie.
Yeah,
so thanks a lot, Freddie Francis, again.
Yeah.
He's dead now, so he's not watching, but...
R.I.P.
Yeah,
Maybe he's on the moon.
Yep. Maybe. They're sending all sorts of ashes up into space.
Is the man on the moon, actually.
Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, his ashes were sent up to space.
Oh, wow.
James Doohan, the lead singer of the Grateful Dead. What the heck is his name?
How much do you have to pay to do something like that?
Probably a lot of money. And then they just release him up into space.
$1 million.
But I can't think of his name. What's the lead singer of Grateful
know.
Dead?
I can look it up real quick.
Jerry Garcia.
Ah.
Yeah. He's in space. You know, maybe Elon Musk's Tesla will run them over. Because that's up in space. Did you know that?
I don't know.
He launched a Tesla into space.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's, I mean, hopefully it won't run them over.
You do the news?
Yeah, I do the news.
What the heck is going on around here?
Oh my gosh.
No, I mean, now that, we kind of went over how the movie ends, I mean, I just think it's worth noting the, special effects are all practical effects, obviously. I mean, it is the 60s, and practical effects even today I prefer over visual effects. I mean, not that visual effects aren't great. I mean, as annoying as the movie is, Avatar is a, industry-breaking special effects, creation. But I enjoy practical effects, so that's what this entire movie was. And
well, and I think that whenever you go back years later and you watch a movie with practical effects, you have more respect for it because, like we talk about in my classes, once the audience isn't paying attention to the narrative anymore and you're paying attention to something like the graphics, then you're disengaged and you lose that audience. And I think that whenever we look back at something now, like Mars Attacks, we're like, oh, that looks so fake. And that's what you start thinking about. So with practical effects, you're like, good job. You tried.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but even practical effects today, I mean, there's some practical effects that I don't really notice right away. Movie The Poltergeist. I just watched this documentary on Disney Plus. When the house, it goes in on itself, almost like, getting sucked into a black hole. I mean, that was a model, and underneath them they had like this industrial super vacuum that literally just sucked the house right in.
Right.
And it's like, wow, I mean, I guess now when you watch it today, you see it, especially like 4K movies.
But it's respectable.
But it's respectable because, I mean, the amount of work that went into building that house to the exact detail of, the exterior of the house they used.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Fun fact number 2, that's the first scary movie I ever saw, and it gave me nightmares.
Poltergeist.
Yes, and I could not be alone. I was like 3 years old, and I remember this. I could not be alone in a room with a TV by myself.
Really?
Because it just scared me. And even now, the static freaks me out on a TV.
Which you rarely see anymore, but
right.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Poltergeist was a good movie.
It's so good.
I think the first movie that scared me was Return to Oz, the sequel to Wizard of Oz. You ever seen that from the 80s?
No.
Yeah, Return to Oz. It's a sequel to the original movie.
I mean,
Disney
I've heard of
made
it, but I've never seen it. I don't think I knew it was a sequel.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Oh, wow.
It's not supposed to be.
Oh.
But it's a terrifying movie.
Well, at least my scary movie was supposed to be terrifying.
Is that, I mean, you're lured into this children's movie. You're like, oh, it's the Wizard of Oz. Oh, she's going back to Oz. Oh, JK, all her friends are dead.
Yeah.
Munchkin Town's been blown to bits, It was scary. I was lured in. Yeah, spoiler alert. You're not going to watch it anyway. But, no, so the special effects, I mean, I just have a lot of respect for practical effects.
Yeah.
Especially when they're used today.
Right.
Because actually probably practical effects today, depending on what you're doing, are probably more expensive than the special effects. I mean, as crazy as that sounds.
No, I mean, the price of material anymore is just... Speaking of special effects, and I know we have to cut to a commercial break here soon, but something that I found to be funny was, and this was something that I actually Googled, so I looked for it. I don't know if the average bear would find it, but the jalopy, they love talking about the jalopy. But this just old car they were driving around, they actually used a blue screen in this movie instead of a green screen, and the car was blue. So whenever they went to key in the background, it pulled some of that blue from the car. And so you can actually see through the car, and it's, but not like you can see into the hood, you can see that background. So there's like trees on the hood of the car, which was...
That's pretty funny.
I mean, it almost looked like a reflection, so I don't think anyone would really notice.
Right,
but,
yeah.
And
I mean, probably at the time, again, we talk about how films are so cleaned up now.
Yeah.
At the time, it probably wouldn't have been noticeable as well, just because of the quality of the film.
Right.
Which, again, I was just thinking about that when you were saying is I just recently watched one of the Star Trek films on HBO Max, and it's the 4K Ultra. And there's this scene where, they're like on trial, and you look up at the judge, and in the original film, you could see, you could barely see the judge because he's sitting like in this shadow box, and then you can barely see the outline of these two people standing next to him. But the 4K Ultra is so cleaned up that, now it brightens up that box, and you see the judge, and then these two people who are flanking him are dummies. In cloaks. And it's like, now you can see, like, they just had these dummies dressed up there that
that's
wasn't
so
going to be up there.
interesting.
So, like, today, I think we pick up on some of that stuff more because the quality is now so cleaned up that you're, like, seeing those little abnormality.
Yeah.
I'm having a stroke here, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's interesting. So. Well, that's one time when tech does us dirty, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess we'll go to a quick commercial break. We'll
Sounds
come back.
good.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Hi, I'm Rob Disman, and I'm the owner of your local Domino's Slippery Rock. I started out with Domino's as a delivery driver when I was in college, ended up really liking the job. Worked my way up through management to the supervisor. I did that for about 10 years. My family, we decided that we couldn't really go any further with that, so we decided to go ahead and become a franchisee with Domino's. I'm lucky enough to have enough community support that most customers have become more than just customers, they're more like friends. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this community for 20 years, and I look forward to many more years.
As years pass and people come and go from our lives, all we have is our memories. From the family gathering to the summer baseball games to that first trip to Disney, those memories are something to be cherished. I thought many of those memories were lost to time and outdated technology, but with Memory Lane Media, they gave me those memories back so that I can share them with my grandkids, and they can share them with their kids one day.
Main Street's more of a budget-friendly option. You've got the smaller apartments that definitely leave a lot more room for customization. They are also fully furnished. It's kind of our hidden gem. So you have your options of 3-people units or 2-people units. South Rock's more of our in-between property. It's not super fancy, but it's also still very budget-friendly. You have the opportunity to live with 3 other individuals, which definitely helps with the pricing. The units come fully furnished. The bedrooms come with a desk, a dresser, a nightstand, and a full-size bed. Kitchens are fully equipped. You have a washer and dryer in the apartment, and then you have a really nice patio. Stonecrest is quiet, comfortable, classy. We offer 4 bedrooms and we have 2 bedrooms. All of our units are completely furnished. The kitchen is fully equipped. You have fridge, stove, microwave, dishwasher and garbage disposal, and you do have a patio space as well. For more information, visit us at www.southrockapartments.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
And we're back. This has been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah. Well, I think the movie too. You
Yeah.
know, really, it was something different than we've watched so far.
And whenever you both watch the movie, I think it helps.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just saying.
You know, I just wanted to bring up just about our stars because you know we've talked a little about them on camera, but we talked a bit about them before we even started this episode.
Yeah. Tell me more.
And of course now, you know, I'm just like, you know, where is it here? Hold on.
Well, as you are cueing that, so we've already talked about Robert Hutton.
Yeah.
So he's one of our main actors.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer
Jane.
Jennifer Jane?
Yeah.
Jane.
Jane with a Y.
Okay, yeah. So something, you said that Robert Hutton reminded you of who again?
Matlock.
Yes, Matlock, yeah.
Andy Griffith in his older years.
And I thought he gave me Jimmy Stewart vibes with his just kind of like very serious personality, but
yeah.
Tell me more about Robert Hutton.
Well, actually, you know, it's kind of upsetting because, and I think I may have already said this earlier in the broadcast, but this would be like his last leading role. He would do bit parts, and he would do some television appearances. But he really doesn't have a leading role again the rest of his career.
Why?
Well, he believed it was because of his staunch conservative views that he had at the time.
Oh.
You know, which is, I mean, honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing when I read that about him because it's just crazy how, I mean, that's kind of then and now. I mean, you know, people losing their notoriety in the film industry because of, you know, political views, which I think is just, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy to me. I mean, because it's not like they're filming propaganda films or anything like that. They're just, they have beliefs just like everybody else does. But, so yeah, I mean, his career, in his view, took a dive because of that.
They must have been pretty staunch.
Right. But, you know, also, I mean, you know, this movie did terribly after it was released. So maybe that played into it too. But, you know, unless he was a communist. Which one am I looking at here? Oh, communist. But
maybe we should do a little more research on Robert Hutton.
Right. I'm not calling him a communist. That was just part joke. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, career over.
He's a handsome fellow.
Yeah,
Look at this. We'll put
okay.
some visuals on the screen for the audience. I mean, just
right,
look at that.
you can't see what we're looking at yet, but, this little,
This little shot here.
yeah, there's his little Matlock look.
Yes, I 100% agree.
But, so yeah, so his career pretty much ended after
When
this
he was
film.
also in, The Slime People,
Yeah.
Cinderfella, Janie, and he was born in 1920.
Yep.
June 11th, 1920. So, he was, 47 whenever this movie came
Yeah.
out. So he had a long career. A
Oh,
long
yeah.
life to still go for this to be his last movie.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah.
So he made but he mostly made appearances in Freddie Francis films. And the one that comes to mind is Tales from the Crypt film from the 1970s. He makes a little appearance in that as a neighbor of one of the characters.
Huh.
And then with Jennifer Jane, she had a mildly successful career leading up to this film. But unfortunately, this would also be her last leading part until the very end of her life. In her last film she made, but she made more appearances on television in shows, which you saw a lot at the time, especially actors who weren't the leading ladies or men of the time.
Right.
Would appear on shows like Bonanza and all those shows.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows in the 60s and 70s just had like this carousel of people who just appeared.
Right.
In bit parts here and there.
Right.
And sometimes multiple times in the same show, just as different characters. You kind of see that today, but it's,
Right.
Not as much because shows, I think, take, continuity a little bit more serious today.
Well, yeah, and I think that
back then.
TV was looked at as this second-rate medium
Yeah.
to film. And so, not, like you said, not a ton of, not that thought didn't go into it, but it just didn't matter as much.
Right, yeah. It was more for the entertaining aspect and not so much for the story aspect.
Just to go back to Robert Hutton for 1 second, he broke his back, and then he spent his last days in a nursing care facility after a home accident.
That's rough.
Yeah. But
That's rough.
anyways.
And how old was he?
He was, this was only in 1994. So that wasn't that long ago. He would have been 74 years old.
Yeah.
Geez.
This
was the end of he did this movie.
And then he broke his back.
And then he broke his back and.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's how General Patton died.
Broke his back?
He was in a car accident over in Germany. He never came back from World War II.
Yeah.
In the end of the days of World War II, he got into a car accident, and he was just laid up in this hospital until he died, which is crazy.
Live every day like it's your last, people.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right now, it currently holds, they came from beyond space, it currently holds a 4.5 out of 10 critic score.
Mm-hmm.
But it has a higher audience score, and mainly because I think people, especially today, they have, as we were talking about earlier, an appreciation for these older movies. And even if, I know a lot of times, and I don't know if you know what riff tracks are, but a lot of times people watch these movies more for the entertainment, as we were talking about TV back in the day.
Right.
And they just find the humor in the story, much like, when Curtis just pops Lee across the face. I'm sure there was many other ways that he could have handled rescuing her.
Right.
But, it's the 60s. And
it was just, so ridiculous.
We're just batting Lee around across the screen. But,
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that helps a lot, too, is that, there's an audience now who finds humor in these campy older films that at the time were meant to be, serious. Yeah. But, in the end, they really are kind of humorous. So.
Yeah. I was even the battle scenes between the guards and Temple. I was sitting on my phone Googling what was the very first fight scene to ever be filmed, and I couldn't find anything on it. I found some 1920s, like Zorro, but I couldn't find anything that could really help me understand when choreography in what do they call it? Combat film But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's hilarious to watch because and there are no words. And this movie too, I think it lends it, like the music is very dramatic, more so than movies that we see now.
Yeah.
I mean, we still use music to set a mood and help carry a narrative, but this movie, it was like, dun, 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 and you're like, okay, now I know something's happening.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very reminiscent to Star Trek.
Yeah.
When they would fight, hand-to-hand combat on Star Trek. I mean, it was loud music and, some light,
Spew, spew.
Yeah, right, like, sound effects. But the music kind of carried the fight because, I mean, they were so obviously coordinated, fight scenes.
I'm going to now flip over your head.
Right, and it's also even funnier now when I go back and I'll watch, films like this and, Star Trek, and then you really watch the fight scene, and it's like so obviously not the actor doing the fighting.
Right,
it's
right,
so
right, right.
obvious that it's a stand-in doing this fighting, and it's like, again, back then, they were just like, the actor's 6'7", we only have a 5'8" person. Whatever, throw him in there. Nobody's even going to be looking at that.
Just raise the camera up.
Yeah, they're going to be looking at the fight. So, but the fights in this film were pretty comical, especially that last all-out brawl when they start the uprising on the ship.
Right.
I was just like, oh, okay, like this is 60s. This is 60s feature film for sure.
Yeah. Well, and that ship was very. I loved the furniture on it.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize. I mean, I knew they were on a ship, but I was confused because it was like Victorian furniture.
Yeah, it's funny. You see that in a lot of older sci-fi movies. You're thinking, okay, like we're in the future, but they're using this furniture that clearly is 60s and 50s furniture, just decorated a little differently. And I'm just like, is that really what you think the furniture is going to look like in 200 years? Really?
No, it's going to look like this desk.
Right, yeah.
Which looks more spacey than that one especially, yeah.
Well, yeah, but then the furniture and,
right.
They came from beyond space.
Yeah. So.
Freddie Francis, I mean, his entire career was pretty much in the horror sci-fi genre.
Okay.
1965's Hysteria, 68's Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Okay.
Oh, and it was 1972's Tales from the Crypt, actually, that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like he had a pretty successful career. I mean, these films were not huge box office, bombs that, but I mean bomb in a good way, but that he had. But he is an Academy Award winner. He holds 2 Academy Awards, one for Best Cinematography both in the Best Cinematography category, but the first was for 1960's Sons and Lovers, which I had never heard of before this. And the other one was for 1989's Glory with Matthew Broderick, Denzel Washington, and Morgan Freeman.
I'm looking at this right now.
Which is interesting. I mean, because that's not sci-fi and horror genre. And yeah, he won the Academy Award for the cinematography for that film. He has a neat career, and I think it's if you like this film, even in the humorous way, it would be beneficial. Maybe go to his IMDb page and check out some of his other films, which you could probably find, especially the older ones. You might even be able to find them just as easily as you're able to find this film.
Right, yeah. Like I said, because you had downloaded this and sent it to me on OneDrive, but I Googled it because I just didn't want to sit in front of my computer and watch it. But on the Tubi app.
Yeah.
Which, have you ever used that? I feel like, Tubi, you need to give us some advertising dollars for what I'm about to say. But there are a lot of good movies on that app. And it's free. I had no idea.
Yeah, so, I've used it. They have a Johnny Carson. I believe it's Tubi has a Johnny Carson channel. Okay. And it's, I'm
gonna have to look
clearly not the upper end of the Johnny Carson appearances, but still good. I mean, and it jumps through different decades of his career.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've used it for that, and I've used it for some movies, especially when you're having a hard time finding them and you don't want to pay Amazon Prime $19 to rent a movie, which is insane to me. But
well, and I've got every app in existence.
Oh, yeah,
HBO
same.
Max, Disney, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, and then I'm watching Tubi, which is
well, and honestly, I mean, I find that you know, and not to get off track here, but I find that with a lot of my apps,
Yeah.
you know, you have so many apps, there's so many choices, then you don't know what to watch, and then that one thing you're looking for is not on any of those apps. My best friend Marie, she had never seen she had seen them, but it's been a long time. The Indiana Jones films, and we, you know, we're excited for the new one coming out in June. So we just started, like last night, we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you can't find it on anything other than Paramount Plus.
Oh, they've got the...
It's not on Netflix anymore. So she buys a lot of videos through Vudu. She buys movies through Vudu, and it's an app where you can buy, you know, digitally buy these movies, and then if you get those digital codes in your DVDs, you can redeem them on Vudu, and you know they'll be saved on your Vudu account.
Oh, cool.
But Indiana Jones, because this new movie is coming out, to buy the first 4 films in a combo pack is $50.
Oh, wow.
But thankfully, I just on Amazon Prime Day picked up the 4K Ultras, real cheaper than $50, which is why it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
And of course, they give those digital codes. So what we wind up doing is we always wind up sharing digital codes if we get a DVD, because that way we're, you know, if we're ever watching a movie, because we do that all the time. We watch movies at the same time.
Yeah.
Or TV shows that we're watching together, and that way we can watch this media together. But yeah, I mean, Vudu's another one. I mean, you have to pay for them, but they have really cheap movies on there, like, you know, between $1 and $5.99.
Okay.
You can buy, you know, those videos. Where on Amazon Prime, you're not buying them for less than $10 at a time, which is, you know, crazy to me. But also DVDs are getting more expensive too, which it's sometimes even cheaper to buy it digitally.
Exactly.
So we're just really heading in that direction of no physical. I mean, we'll always have physical media, but they're really heading in that direction where they really want you not to buy the physical media.
Well, and then you have to keep the app to even access what you buy. Like if I got rid of Amazon Prime, I would no longer be able to access any of my movies. Yeah. So it just keeps that cycle going.
I still buy physical media for one reason, that if you lose internet connection, even if you own that movie, you cannot watch it because you have to have internet connection to watch it.
Right.
So physical media, you know, for me is, if for whatever reason the internet's down, that way I can just pop a DVD or anything in and watch it. And I have like a vast DVD collection. I mean, because I always pick up DVDs, you know.
So word to our audience members, once that big old internet switch goes off,
you're going to want physical media.
We're going to James's house to watch some movies. You're
watching some Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy movies, baby.
Love it.
Get excited.
Love it.
I think that's pretty much all I have for the film.
Same. I mean, there were some little things here and there that made me giggle, but nothing that, if anyone can find me the rug, like I was saying before, rug in Temple's office, I'm obsessed. It's really cool. It's like the solar system.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yeah.
I want that. So, but that's really the only other note that I had.
We could probably go down to Carnegie Science Center and
probably.
You know, just one box cutter, you pull up that rug, you know.
Sharing codes, ripping rugs out of.
We are delinquents.
Yes.
No, but yeah. Will you be joining us next week?
Yeah.
So this is it. You're the co-host now. It's official. Surprise, America.
You're welcome.
So yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah. Thanks
for having me. And we'll see you next week for another exciting film.
Bye-bye.